Okey. Kita tunggu orang masuk dulu. Setakat ni tak ada orang. Tak apa. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, this week we meet again in weekly booster sessions, and this is a weekly event by Suri Membaca where we promote sharing of reading material among book readers, as well as to encourage reading lah among Malaysian in general. So for this week, we have a very special guest for me, at least, my friend at office. I welcome Muhammad Hairi Tahir. Hi Hairi, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Sihat
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Okay. So let me just introduce Hairi. Hairi is a lawyer by training, a regulator by career, an entrepreneur by professions, an avid traveller, a plant enthusiast. So for your information, Hairi actually ada satu business nama dia Rencah and Rimba. Hairi tak suruh promote pun, tapi as a friend, I just want to promote his business. He has dia jual plants lah, so macam mostly herbs kan, Hairi kan?
Actually, it's a joint venture with me and my wife lah. So it's a kitchen product and also herbs and plants.
Okay. So siapa yang berminat nak beli barang daripada Rencah Rimba boleh follow IG Rencah Rimba. Okay. So tanpa melengahkan masa, let's just go to the book, to the main agenda of today's sessions, which is the book on Kite Runner by Khalid Hussaini. So to be honest, I never watched this film ataupun tak pernah baca buku ni. Jadi it is a very exciting time for myself because I will actually listen to a good storyteller. Actually, I know Hairi is a good storyteller at office. So yeah, please Hairi, probably you can just introduce the book a bit to our audience.
All right. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, thank you so much to Halimatun for the introduction, and secondly, thank you so much to Suri Membaca for inviting non-Suri to be part of your session tonight. The last time I checked, I am so confident that I am still a non-Suri. All right, going back to the book, The Kite Runner. One thing that I found to be interesting about the book is actually the title itself, The Kite Runner. Because as a kid, I grew up in Muar, Johor, and back then I had limited opportunity to play kites because at that time, back then when I was a kid, I was a nerd, or secondly because the location itself was not windy enough, and my house compound was not that huge, so I couldn't really run around, and because my houses inside my neighborhood, they had this high TV area because everyone was trying to capture Singapore's TV station. So there's a huge risk of your kites getting stuck in between. So it was not really a conducive location for kite running. So that it triggers me in the sense that why the title is The Kite Runner instead of a kite flyer. So after I read a little bit more, then I realized that this kite running or kite flying has a deeply rooted sentimental value to the people of Afghanistan. Yes, because by the title itself, I believe that Khalid Hussaini was trying to front load a childhood memory that he held closely to his heart, in my opinion. So basically, kite running is also known as Gudi Paran Bazi. It is a 100-year-old tradition of the people of Afghanistan. Because kite running in Afghanistan, the Gudi Paran Bazi is not just a kite flying activity. It is actually a competition whereby one person is trying to bring down the other person's kite. In this competition, it is actually a dueling competition whereby you need to bring down other people's kite by cutting the string of their kite. So you can imagine that in this competition, the string is devised in such a way that it is sharp enough by using blade or razor so that you are able to navigate it and cut other people's kite and bring them down. So the winner in this competition would be the one whose kite still remain in the air. So that's how the game is played. So when someone managed to cut the string of other people's kite, the kite will drift away, and you can see that dozens of boys and men of all ages came running to retrieve the kite. So I believe that that is where the terminology of kite running or kite runner is being coined. So to make this happen in this competition, to succeed in this competition, typically it will require two people. The first person will be the one navigating the kite and trying to cut at the people's strings of the kite, and the second person will be the one holding the spool of wire. They call it the charka. So you can see that to succeed in this game, it requires some form of collaboration or teamwork. And as depicted inside the book, this game was actually played during the winter, perhaps because the weather is permitting, the wind is good. And another interesting fact that I discovered was that this game was actually banned by the Taliban around 1996 to 2001 because it was considered as un-Islamic. This game has led people towards some form of betting and to some extent injury, because kids, when they get too excited, they climb on top of their roof, on top of trees to get a better view of their opponents. And when they get too carried away, their risk of falling down and sustain serious injuries. So yeah, but after the fall of Taliban, this game has been revived once again. The thing is, to us, this appears to be just a game. But to the people of Afghanistan, this is a form of escapism, a form of pure joy that distract them from the sadness, the sorrow of losing their loved ones, or the war devastation that they had to endure all these years. So that's why I say that it has a deeply rooted sentimental value to the people. So about the book itself, it was published way back in 2003, but I only managed to get my hands onto the book like 10 years after that. So you can see that I basically missed all the hypes, all the sensations surrounding the book for the first 10 years after its publication. But after I flipped through the book, then I came to an understanding of the recognition that this book deserves. This book has been labeled as the best-selling mega seller, and the book was dubbed as the book of the decade by the likes of Times Magazine, Guardian, Telegraph, and in fact there is a movie made out of this book, based on this book, and it became box office generating around 70 million US dollar worldwide. So you can see that this book is such a huge success. So if you are looking for a book for you to read, then I am recommending for you to give this book a consideration. Give it a chance. Who knows, you might like it, because I really do. When it comes to fiction, I may not have wide range of genres of fictions, but I believe that each writer has his or her own strength of writing. For example, if you're looking for an interesting plot, I would usually go to the like of John Grisham, Stephen King, Vikas Swarup, or Sidney Sheldon. If I'm looking for sense of humor, I am entertained by the writing of, for example, Robert Kwan's Crazy Rich Asian, because he has that Asian flair that you can immediately relate, macam-macam kepo in Singapore, for example. If you're looking for a very good imagination, then young adults have a very good range of good imagination in their books, like J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter, Roald Dahl, etc. But when it comes to Khalid Hosseini, he doesn't have to come out with a plot twist at the end of the story. He doesn't have to employ sense of humor to keep us entertained. He doesn't have to crack his head to come up with mind-blowing imagination, because the strength of Khalid Hosseini lies in his narrative way of writing. He has this ability of describing a particular characters in such a way that you are able to visualize how the person looks like, how the person walks, how the person talks. And he is able to describe a particular scenario, a particular location, that you can use your imagination of how beautiful the place is, because Afghanistan is really beautiful. I haven't been there, but looking at the pictures here, I think it's beautiful. And on top of that, he is also able to describe a particular emotion or feeling that if you have not been experiencing that kind of feeling, you are able to understand, you are able to empathize those with that feeling. And if you have experienced that feeling before, you are able to feel it once again. You understand how it looks like. That is how Khalid Hosseini connects with the audience, at least how he connects with me.
Okay, great. So you mentioned macam Khalid Hosseini is a good writer and he able to make us travel together dengan the writing lah kan. So probably you want to share a little bit about Khalid Hosseini and probably what is the key themes of this
Right.
book, because kalau sebelum ni kita dah discuss pasal A Thousand Splendid Sun, and the story dalam Thousand Splendid Sun tu berkenaan dengan wanita lah. Somehow the focus is more on women, but I read the review is about yang kali ni buku Kite Runner ni berkenaan dengan lelaki. So I wonder what are the key themes and probably the plots on this book lah. From this book, sorry.
Okay. Right, as you correctly pointed out, I think it is fair for us to get to know about the author a little bit. So Khalid Hosseini was born in 1965, in Kabul, Afghanistan. And when he was around 10 to 11 years old, the entire family was relocated to Paris, France. I think because the father, if I'm not mistaken, the father is, I think he was a diplomat or whatever, I'm not so sure, I'll check about that. But when Khalid Hosseini was 15 years old, he was scheduled to return back to Kabul. The entire family was supposed to go back to Kabul, but then the communist coup happened, the Soviet army invasion took place, etc. So given the political instability, the father felt that it is not safe for them to return home, because from time to time they received news that their relatives, family members, acquaintances, friends, neighbors being captured, tortured, murdered, or went missing. So they feared for their safety. So the father applied for and was granted the political asylum in the United States. So they moved to California, where he grew up. So after that, then Khalid Hosseini graduated high school. He pursued his study in biology, after that in medicine. And while practicing medicine, he began writing the Kite Runner. So basically, Kite Runner was his first debut, and he did so well. So the book was published in 2003, published in over 70 countries, so more than 40 millions. And this has also paved the success of other books, like the Thousand Splendid Suns, The Mountain Echoed, and I think the recent one, the name of the book is The Sea Prayer. On top of that, he is also heavily and deeply involved in humanitarian initiatives. He was appointed as the ambassador for the refugee in UNHCR, and he found foundation, he gave talks to refugee and all. So after knowing Khalid Hosseini, actually what I sense is that Khalid Hosseini is somewhere inside the book. The fractions of his childhood memory is inside the book. So that's what I feel when I know Khalid Hosseini and also flip through the pages of the book. So that's what it's all about. So in terms of the themes of the book, in my opinion, the themes are not really something groundbreaking or revolutionary. The themes are actually very much simple. So simple that it is the themes are relatable in our daily lives. Let me share with you the themes. So the first one, the underlying themes for this book is actually, the first is friendship. So friendship, my reflections toward the first theme is that when it comes to friendship, it is relatively easier for us to forge. Then was so simple. Fun, we enjoy each other's companionship. When I was young, my late mother would say, "Tu ada kawan tu, pergilah main," and I was able to instantly forge a relationship or friendship with a kid of my age in an instant, in a blink of an eye. But the moment we entered into adolescent stage, we became adult. The social interaction became more complex. Our needs and priorities became more sophisticated, complicated. We begin to have differences of political inclination, for example, religious belief, principles, clashes of values. There is a huge possibility of social conflict, misunderstanding, etc. To some extent that we tend to forget that appreciating the things in common that we had means so much more compared to paying so much attention on our differences. So we need to respect our differences. But the kind of friendship reflected in this book in the beginning was so pure that despite their differences, they are able to connect. So that's the first theme of the book. The second theme of the book is all about the loyalty. The loyalty reflected inside the book was so astounding. To some extent, to me, it sounds so truistic, in the sense that I can't believe such loyalty ever exists in the world today. I mean, we don't talk about the loyalty of companions of Prophet Muhammad. Itu adalah kesetiaan yang tidak ada tolok banding. Or the last loyalty ever heard is about loyalty of Hang Tuah to Sultan Malacca. But this book, the loyalty in this book is about the ability to see a particular person beyond what he or she portray herself or himself to be. The kind of decision that that person has to make. So he understands, even if he was mistreated inside the book, So that's the kind of loyalty being conveyed to us. But in my personal opinion, in real life, we need to know the limits of the loyalty that we have, because like pepatah Melayu ada mengatakan buat baik berpada-pada. So because in life we need to know that we should not waste our time for things that does not create values for us, for other people. So we need to know our limits and to whom we should be loyal to. At least that's how I see, how I reflect on the theme. The third theme of the book is about betrayal. I mean, at one point in life, we may have felt or we may have been betrayed by other people, or in some cases we may have betrayed other people. So for some people, betraying other people is something that they can justify. They can program their head that it is justified for them to do so in the name of pursuing greater good, pursuing something, but it is pretty much subjective. So you can understand that betrayal is a form of human weakness, because when a particular person wants something so bad and something is standing between him and something that he wanted to achieve, so that is when his value is being tested, whether you will betray that person or you will do the other way around. So betrayal is something that is common, that we need to expect in our daily life. I mean, that's how I see it. The fourth theme is guilt. Guilt to me is a proof that deep down inside we are still a good person, because we are not at ease when we did something wrong or we did something that is not right. When it comes to guilt, what differentiates us or what elevates us from being a good person to a better person is how we respond to it. Are we going to rectify it, or are we going to determine not to do the similar mistake again? We're just gonna live it through without thinking about it. So that's how we respond to the feeling of guilt. The fifth theme of the book is all about redemption. I mean, the word by one of the character, Rahim Khan, he said, "Come, there is a way to be good again." This resonates to me because as a human, we are not perfect. We make mistakes. So we can never undo the past. So what we can do is actually to do things right, to do good in the future. So that's the most that we can do living ahead. As long as we live, God give us opportunity. Allah give us opportunity for us to do good to ourselves and also to other people. So when you put these 5 themes together, starting with friendship, friends being loyal, being betrayed, and after that you feel guilty and you try to redeem yourself for greater good. When you put together in such a way that is beautifully narrated, then the book sells to me.
Okay. So I think daripada 5 plot ni, I wonder how ataupun daripada 5 team ni, I wonder how then Khalid translate that into a plot lah. Maksudnya macam at which point friendship tu keluar, the plot, the team on friendship tu keluar, at which point the loyalty, the betrayal part, the guilt and also the redemption part. So macam mind sharing, Hairi?
All right, sure. I'll try my best, because I'm kind of nervous actually, because this book is most people's favorite. So some people are more invested than I am. All right. Okay. When it comes to plot of the book, it is written from the first person perspective. Pointed out, like the book of Thousand Splendid Sun, it is from the perspective of women. When it comes to this book, it is written from the perspective of a boy to a man by the name of Amir. You can feel as if Amir is sitting in front of you and telling you the story. So the way the book is being written is that it involves multi-time dimension. At one time, you felt that you are in the United States. Suddenly, you are in Pakistan. Suddenly, you are in Kabul, Afghanistan, and then you are in the United States once again. So, for the purpose of tonight, I think I will follow the logic sequence instead of the flow of the book, right? Okay. All right. The book started off explaining the 2 main characters. 2 significant characters of the book. The boys are Amir and Hassan. Amir is the one holding the red book inside this picture, and Hassan is the one wearing blue shirt. These 2 kids, these 2 boys, actually they have differences between them. For example, Amir came from a rich family, is a successful businessman. In the book referred as Baba. Baba was a very successful and rich businessman. When it comes to Hassan, he is the son of Ali. Both Hassan and Ali were actually servants to Amir's family. They are orang gaji atau orang suruhan lah kepada Amir dan juga Baba. So in this case, you can see that wealth, there is a gap of wealth between the two. And secondly, what the kind of difference that they have is that they came from different ethnicities. This has taught me that Afghanistan is also a cultural or multi-ethnic country. But the central focus of this book are only of two ethnics, Pashtun and also Hazara. So inside this book, Amer is the Pashtun, which is the majority tribe in Afghanistan, while Hassan is the Hazara, the minority group in Afghanistan. So in terms of differences, most of them speak different language. Pashtun speak Pashto, while Hazara speak Persian. And also, you can people say that you can identify the Hazara almost immediately because of the physical features, because it was claimed that the Hazara were descendant of Genghis Khan. So they have a more Mongolian feature, right, round face. So nampak kan muka budak tu bulat dekat muka dia. So other than that, the fundamental difference lies in the religious interpretation or religious belief, because Amer, the Pashtun, most of them are the Sunni sect, while Hassan, the Hazara, most of them are the Shia side. So they have a fundamental religious differences between them. So even though despite the differences, they are able to connect with one another. They shared the childhood pure joy. But when I read further, I just want to understand the conflict or tension between the two tribes, that the differences has created tension points between the two tribes. It was attributable to the administration of one of the king, which is King Abdul Rahman Khan in the late 18s, whereby he is a dictator lah. He adopted a military leadership style. They call it the Iron Amir, So the dictator leadership style that he adopted has caused so many people to be dissatisfied with him, including the Hazara. So the Hazara tribe began to rebel. Hazara used to be the majority people inside Afghanistan. So when they were dissatisfied with the king, they rebelled, etc. But the Hazara was defeated. When Hazara was defeated, it resulted in mass killing of the Hazara, mass slavery, and also displacement of the people of Hazara, resulting into significant reduction of the population of the Hazara Afghanistan. Despite the slavery has ended in 1923, Hazara remained to be one of the marginalized community in Afghanistan, especially during the Taliban. Taliban executed most of the people in Hazara because Taliban felt that Hazara being Shia is not really Islamic enough during that time. So today, based on my reading, I realized that the situations have slightly improved, but there was also accounts saying that there's still a long way to go, even though Hazara began to get employment, began to hold important position in the government, being athlete and all. So as a result of this tension, the way it was narrated inside the book is that as if Hazara is not being seen as equal. Hazara is inferior to the people of Pashtun. So in this story, people like Amir is usually viewed as higher or superior compared to Hassan. But despite these differences, these two kids get along pretty well and described as closer than brothers. So, and also both being motherless, because Amir was born in 1963, and the mother passed away while giving birth to him, while Hassan, the mother left when she was born, because she was born with a Claire, and right. So the mother left. So both grew up with the love of the mother, and they enjoy spending time together, flying kites, reading books. Even though Amir would read to illiterate Hassan, but Amir received proper education, while Hassan did not. So the routine would be Amir went to school, Hassan would spend time doing chores at home, kemas apa semua lah. And one day, three kids named Asif, Kamal, and Wali. These three kids are actually the antagonists of the book lah. They threaten Amir in the sense that, why Amir are you befriending these inferior Hazara people like Hassan, But Hassan managed to scare them off with a slingshot, because in terms of character, Amir is viewed as a timid, reserved person. So Hassan is more brave, more courageous than Amir. So Hassan managed to scare these people off by a slingshot. He was really good in slingshot, lastik lah. Right, that's the relationship of Amir and Hassan. But when it comes to, of course, being a rich person is not always rainbows and butterflies for them. When it comes to the relationship of Amir and Baba, his father, is not that good, because Amir loved Baba so much, but struggled in forging a close relationship with Baba, because these two have have very different characters because Baba was a man of principle. He's a brave man, successful businessman. So he could not comprehend the clashes of values of interest between them because Amir tend to drown himself in books because he loved poetry so much. He loved book. He aspired to be a writer, but this is not the route that Baba would like him to take. For him, he is frustrated that the son is not a reflection of his character. So this somehow creates some sort of tension between the two. And Amir felt deprived of his father's affection, leading towards constant desire to gain Baba's approval, constant desire to gain Baba's recognition that, hey, I am having this kind of potential. Why can't you see this? But Baba refused to reflect that. So because of Baba's demonstration of affection, but the thing is, Baba has displayed a more or rather a heavier affection towards Hassan. And this has built up the jealousy in Amir. Why are you treating the son of a servant like that? Well, I am not having that kind of relationship with you. So Amir had to resort to a more fatherly figure of Rahim Khan. Rahim Khan is Baba's close friend. So sometimes Rahim Khan would say to Baba, why are you treating this boy like this? You know, you can't impose whatever qualities you have on him. He is a different person whatsoever. But Baba insisted that a man should behave in certain manner. So because of this conflict of personalities have caused the tension points between Baba and also Amir. So the story fast forward into a kite competition. When the winter came, the kite tournament took place where Amir and Hassan partnered together as a team. And Amir won the tournament and finally earned Baba's recognition and praise. Finally, after years of trying to get Baba's recognition, he finally got that. So on that day, Hassan set out to run for the last kite because Amir said, okay, get the last kite for me, which was considered as a trophy. So before he ran off, Hassan said to Amir, for you 1,000 times over, untuk kau aku sanggup buat apa sahaja. Because they won the competition, they are so excited. The father even witnessed the competition and went, bravo my boy, you know. But the thing is, when Hassan tried to retrieve the kites, Hassan encountered the three bullies again, Asif, Kamal and Wali in the way. So Asif insisted give the kite, but Hassan defended, this is not yours, this is Amir. But as a result, Hassan was beaten and raped by Asif. The thing is, Amir witnessed the incident from far, but he was too terrified to intervene. Last time masa dia kena bully pun dia takut Hassan can jump for his position. What more in this situation? So he was terrified to intervene. When Hassan returned with the kite, Amir pretended he did not know what happened, as if he didn't see what has happened, because at this point he felt guilty, but he knows that his act of cowardice, lack of bravery would destroy Baba's recognition, because Baba constantly said that I believe in a man of principle. A man should stand up for himself. A man who didn't stand up for others won't be able to stand up for himself whatsoever. Right? So in this case, that he has that guilt of not saving Hassan, but he want to preserve, because I've tried all these years to gain Baba recognition. This is the only time I could get one. So, but the problem is, Amir's guilt was haunting him, resulting him in keeping a distance from Hassan. So Hassan remained clueless. What is happening? Why Amir is distancing himself from me? Amir has this guilt burning inside of him. So Amir decided that I can't bear this anymore. Hassan must leave, in his opinion. So he stuffed money and watch under Hassan's pillow and accused Hassan has been stealing them. So he told Baba. So upon confrontation then, when Baba confronted Ali and Hassan surprisingly admitted to it, even though he did not do it. So that has resulted into the departure of Ali and Hassan. They moved away from the house. So even though Amir felt that this has somehow forged or make the relationship with Baba closer, but it is at the risk or at the cost of his own best friend. I mean, that is the first part of the book, of this Kite Runner. So when it comes to the subsequent part, it is fast forwarded to years after that, where the war took place. This has triggered me to get to know about what happened in Afghanistan. Well, actually, I'm kind of hesitant or reluctant to go deeper, because I may be the least qualified person to tell you about the history of Afghanistan. But okay, what I would do is I will share briefly from the perspective of a child inside this book, from the perspective of a person who may not know what the political situation has been is all about. But from Amir and Hassan's perspective as a kid back then, they know that during the time, the first 10 years of living on this earth, the country has been administered by a king. the name of the king is King Zahir Shah. But in 1973, the king was overthrown by his own cousin, by his own prime minister, Daud. It was a bloodless coup. Meaning to say, there was not much resistance when that happened. In fact, when the king was overthrown, he was not in the country; he was in Italy. And in fact, when he was overthrown, he didn't even retaliate. He formally abdicated the throne. So his cousin, the prime minister, took control of the country. That marks the end of the monarchy of the country. And he declared himself as the president, and the Republic of Afghanistan being established after that. And the king remained in exile ever since. And then Daud Khan, as the prime minister, he had this close or a positive relationship with the Soviet Union, and with the support of the sorry, and he came up with lots of policy and changes. Why he overthrew the king? He felt that the king's administration was not progressive enough, not much changes. So he felt dissatisfied and he needed to do something. So he came up with lots of policy. And despite having a close relationship with the Soviet Union, he decided to appear neutral. Even Afghanistan appeared to be the non-alignment party to the Cold Wars happening at that time. Even though he has the positive relationship with the Soviet Union, he still forged relationship with the countries who were considered as the anti-Soviet, like Egypt, Saudi, Iran, etc. So during his time, the changes that he brought, he was viewed as being autocratic, and he brought social and educational reformation, where women are more empowered to be inside the education system. And during his time, there were already conflict in the political party, because the moment he overthrew the king, he was supported by this one political party named People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan, or PDPA. So within the PDPA itself, there were rivalries between the leaders. They were, search of powers among themselves. So when one of the prominent members were assassinated, the other members or the other leaders of the political parties accused the government has a role. The government did play a role in the assassination, even though the government, Daud Khan, denied this situation. But speculation went around until to a point that Daud Khan felt that I need to curtail this situation before it turned bad. So he began arresting the important people of the PDPA, the political party. And then this has caused uproar and uprising to a point that after that he was assassinated. In fact, the entire family was assassinated in a revolution that they call it the Saur Revolution. The entire family, including the grandchildren, 18 months baby, was also assassinated that particular night. So this is an important turn during that time. So the leader of the PDPA took over control of the countries, and there are lots of people rebelling, people dissatisfied, whatsoever. From the Soviet Union's point of view, their influence has been deteriorated. They felt that their power are becoming lesser in Afghanistan. So they felt that they needed to do something. And in the name of aiding the country, Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. I'm not sure, I think it's somewhere in 1979. It began to invade Afghanistan, and Soviet also brought some changes whatsoever to the dissatisfaction of the people of Afghanistan. So it gave rise to many movements like the Mujahideen whatsoever. So of all these uprisings, lots of bombings, etc. So basically, the situation has turned Afghanistan or Kabul into a war zone, causing people to flee Afghanistan. And Amer and Baba were among them. These two actually among the people who fled from Kabul to Pakistan. And 2 years later, Amer and Baba led a different life in California. They were granted the asylum whatsoever. So in California, Baba worked in a gas station where Amer pursued his study in writing. So you can see the different characters now, from a man with full of principle, somebody in Kabul, Afghanistan, suddenly became someone who's working in a gas station. Someone, so you can see the flow or difference of characters displayed later on by Baba. And even in the weekend, Baba and Amir sold used items at the local flea market every Sunday just to get extra income. But Amir continued to pursue his study and also graduated. An important turning point also when one day Baba met his old friend, also a refugee by the name of General Tahiri. General Tahiri has a daughter by the name of Soraya. So Amir met Soraya course, the love at the first sight whatsoever. So when later on, when Baba was diagnosed with terminal cancer, Amir asked a last favor from his Baba: "Can you ask General Tahiri's permission so that I can marry his daughter?" So that was the last time. So General Tahiri accepted the proposal from the father. So both got married, and a month after that, Baba passed away. Both Amir and Claire settled down and led a happy married life. Amir embarked on a successful career as a novelist. So you can see, novelist, Khalid Usani is writer. Somehow I can feel
Actually,
like
when you mentioned that dia jadi writer tu, pursue his
yeah,
his career as a
study
writer,
hard.
Khalid is in there already lah.
Yeah, I felt that he's in there, or at least he was inspired by his own story. So okay, all right. So the thing is, when after they got married, so then they realized that both of them are not able to have kids. They are incapable of having a baby. So that's a revelation to them, right? And after that, years after the wedding, Amir received a call from Rahim Khan. You remember Rahim Khan, the best friend of the father, right? So when Rahim Khan asked him to meet in Pakistan. So when Amir met Rahim Khan in Pakistan, Amir discovered about the devastation in Kabul when Taliban took over. So because after the Soviet Union invaded the country, lots of unrest whatsoever, and after that there were treaties between the United States, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and also Soviet Union, whereby they agreed to withdraw the troop. When the Soviet troop went out, then lot more political unrest in the country. Then the Taliban rose and promised peace, etc. But the thing is, maybe perhaps Taliban has adopted a more drastic approach, more fundamentalism or more extremism in their leadership approach. Women are being deprived from education, no more entertainment whatsoever. So there's lots of drastic changes in Afghanistan during the regime of the Taliban. And then Rahim Khan revealed the truth that actually Hassan was actually Baba's son with another lady, thereby making Hassan Amir's half brother. So this explains why, when they were children back then, Baba used to treat Hassan nicely, because Baba himself has this kind of guilt, I believe in that in such a way. So that explains why a closer relationship of Baba with Hassan, because Baba actually loved these two children equally, but Baba maybe portrayed it differently, but Amir couldn't get that. So it is a revelation to Amir that actually Hassan is my half brother. So Rahim Khan told him that after Baba and Amir left the country to Pakistan, Rahim Khan convinced Hassan to return home. Come on, this is also your home. Come back. So Hassan came back together with his wife named Farzana, and they got a child by the name of Sohra. So basically, the three of them, the entire family, went back to the home. So when Rahim Khan went to Pakistan to get medical treatment, he received a devastating news. The Taliban confiscated their home. Hassan and his wife Farzana were shot to death when they refused to give up the home. Amir, when he discovered about this news, there was a sense of huge guilt inside him. Hassan, until at the adult point, until this point, still defended him as a friend. And as a result, Sohrab was sent to orphanage. And Rahim had requested Amir to rescue Sohrab from the orphanage. That is where the script of "Come, there is a way to be good again." I think Rahim Khan knew what happened. So this is a way for you to redeem yourself, save this kid from the orphanage, save Hassan's kid. So Amir searched for Sohrab with the assistance of Farid. So he talked to Suraya and need to go to Afghanistan. So yeah, he went back to Afghanistan and he met Farid, an Afghan taxi driver. So he asked where there is the orphanage, etc. So they went to the orphanage, but unfortunately the orphanage informed that Sohrab was taken away by a Taliban official. Amir managed to secure an appointment with the Taliban officials. In the movie, you can see that Amir went to a stadium where there was a execution of hudud, stoning to death at the time. So he managed to secure an appointment with the Taliban official who took Sohrab away. Amir met the Taliban official only to discover that the Taliban official was actually Asif, the one who raped Hassan when they were kids. So he kept Sohrab as a dancing boy. In the book, it suggests somehow that perhaps Sohrab became a victim of sexual assault or emotional assault by Asif. Asif said, "Yes, I agree to release Sohrab on one condition, that Amir can beat him in a fight. Because to Asif, we have unfinished business. As a kid, I want to beat you up, but Hassan stood up for you. But right now, if you want Sohrab, you need to beat me in a fight. So this is the first time Amir encountered that situation where his value was tested. Last time you chicken out. So this time, do you want to stand up for Sohrab or do you want to run away? But Amir this time stood up, and he was willing to participate in the fight lah. So in the fight that ensued, Amir was badly beaten by Asif. But later on, Sohrab shot Asif in his eye using a slingshot, allowing both Amir and Sohrab to escape. So you can see that Sohrab inherited his father's talent of playing with slingshot. So later on, Amir passed out and woke up in a hospital, and he proposed to adopt Sohrab and bring him back to the United States. But to cut things short, the situation was not that simple, because perhaps it involved some sort of procedure whatsoever, because adopting Sohrab became challenging since there was no evidence of the demise of Sohrab's parents. There was no evidence of Hassan or Farzana being murdered, the way Taliban treated the Hajara at a particular time. So in this case, Amir informed Sohrab that maybe you have to go back to an orphanage for the time being, while me and Soraya try to resolve this thing. But while Amir and Soraya was figuring out the way for Sohrab to the US, Sohrab attempted suicide. But he survived later on. They finally succeeded to bring Sohrab back to the United States. But because Sohrab experienced lots of emotional distress, all the depression whatsoever, he did not refuse to interact with Amir and Soraya. So he remained withdrawn. There's a communication breakdown between them. And one day, Amir and Soraya brought Sohrab to a park where some Afghan were playing kites. I believe that there were a community of Afghan there. So Amir bought one kite and got Sohrab to fly the kite with him to battle another kite, to relive his childhood memory again. They won the battle. As the losing kite flew away, Amir told Hassan, "Do you want me to get the kite for you?" Hassan simply nodded. And he said the similar line that was once uttered by Hassan, "For you, 1,000 times over. Untuk kau, aku sanggup buat apa sahaja." So that somehow the way Amir was redeeming himself after what he has done to Hassan. So I am doing good for your child this moment. So this is how the beautiful storyline flowed from the friendship, then toward the loyalty, the betrayal by Hassan, the betrayal by Amir, the guilt that he felt, and Amir was trying to redeem himself to do things good. I mean, we can immediately relate that yes, perhaps we made a terrible mistake in the past. We can't undo the past, but what we can do is to redeem ourselves, to do good to the best ability or to the best opportunity that was given to us. As long as we live, Allah is giving us an opportunity for us to do good. So we need to resort to that. I mean, that's briefly the plot of the story, I guess.
Thank you so much, Hairi. I wonder because next is our your personal reflection that you're going to share with audience. So I wonder with your experience ataupun pengalaman lah kan, as an avid traveller, as a financial regulator, when you read this book, what is the reflection that you got out of the book?
All right. When we read a fictions or whatever books, reading materials before us, we tend to reflect personally towards it. So this is more of personal reflections to me as a person lah, in terms of apakah pengajaran yang kita dapat daripada buku ini. The first one I would like to share, I think let me read the quotes here. Children are not coloring books. You don't get to fill them with your favorite colors. Which is true. Anak-anak itu adalah satu lembaran kertas putih. Jadi ibu bapa lah yang mencorakkan warnanya. Tapi Khalid Hussein went a step further by saying that yes, but they are not your coloring books. You don't get to fill them with favorite colors. This resonated after I got my first daughter lah. Her name was Orchid lah. Before this, when I read the book, I'm married back then. But masa tu Orchid belum lahir lah. My daughter's name is Orchid. How it resonates to me the most is that Orchid was diagnosed with autism when she was 2 years old. And when she was diagnosed with autism, our world, all the angan-angan, all the imagination that myself and my wife had back then became, tumbling down, because we do not know how to deal with the situation at that particular moment. So it was a struggle in dealing with a kid with a special need. But not to say that other parents did not struggle, but everyone has their own struggle. But the struggle that I have personally as a father is that I do not have the expertise. I do not have the knowledge how to bring out the best from my kid. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so I remember, seeing your kids when I brought her to playground and seeing other kids treating my daughter. I became frustrated. I became sad. Because there's a failure of connection. Other kids couldn't connect with her, so they despise her. They push her away. They close the door in front of her. So that was a very disheartening experience that I had to endure as a parent to a special child. And on
Mm-hmm.
top of that, the disgustful look given by other parents also, I see that as hurtful to me. So I
Mm-hmm.
remember one night I took it out on Orchid because I was trying to get her to focus on her job, trying to get her to focus on her activities. She couldn't focus because kids in the spectrum, she couldn't really focus a short span time to focus. Then I took it on her. I raised my voice to her. I mean, why can't you focus? Whatever. So okay, shuddered. She was so shocked that I raised my voice to her. Then she cried in front of me. And that night,
Mm-hmm.
my value was tested as a father. And I cried as well because I failed at that night because I imposed my color onto her as a child. The thing is, children are not coloring books. She is not my coloring books. I don't get to dictate what kind of color. What I should do is try to connect with her and try to see the world from her point of view and let her explore her own colors. Yes, she is a blank piece of white paper, but what I and my wife should do as parents is to color that paper with her, paint that picture with her as parents, to reach out to her. So that this uh, phrase actually give me a lesson that yes, our kids are not our coloring books. We don't get to choose the color. We need to understand what colors they like and guide them as parents. I mean, that's the first lesson that resonate to me the most. The second one, if I may read, I was going to win and I was going to run that last kite. Then I'd bring it home and show it to Baba, show him once and for all that his son was worthy. This is a very sad feeling, constantly trying to prove your self-worth to a person, trying to prove your value to a person. This is a very sad situation a person to have to end, trying to prove that you meet the expectation or whatsoever, because you build your life so small that you are unable, up to a point that you perhaps unable to see that life is beyond that. Life provides so much opportunities for you to explore your potential rather than putting your target to please a particular person, because in the end we may not be able to do so. So what we need to do is actually to believe that life offers so much more, and we need to unlock our potentials deep within to the best of our ability. I mean, that's how I see it, but it's also attributable to the behavior of Baba himself. Baba displayed that kind of characters to Amir, resulting Amir in behaving in such a way lah. Right, that's the second reflection. The third one is it's wrong to hurt even bad people because they do not know any better, and because bad people sometimes become good. This is logical in the sense that it is very tempting for us to retaliate to the hurtful things being said to you whatsoever, but sometimes you need to be more forgiving because that person may not know any better, and because later on they might understand you and they might become a better person lah. I mean, that's another lesson I learned. Another one, it may be unfair, but what happens in a few days, sometimes even a single day, can change the course of a whole lifetime. It reflects to me in the sense that life is all about decision making, as simple as what I'm going to eat after this, what I'm going to do after this, what work I'm going to do tomorrow, what kind of decision I have to make in the office. Life is all about decision making, and not wanting to make a decision on time, trying to delay the decision is also a decision. The thing is, as a person, we are responsible to all kind of this decision that we are going to make. But the good news is that Allah has guided us with all the sources of Sharia, Quran, Sunnah, the Prophet's behavior, whatsoever. So we are guided by our religious belief on how can we make a more sound and responsible decision. But the truth is, whatever decision that we make, we need to be responsible to that kind of decision, because whatever decision is that is can change the course of whole lifetime of yours or others. And another thing that I like about this book is this quote. I wondered if that was how forgiveness budded, not with the fanfare of epiphany, but with the pain gathering at things, packing up and slipping away on this at night. I mean, that is how exactly forgiveness felt like to me. Because forgiveness, kemaafan bukan sesuatu yang kita canang-canangkan kepada orang lain. Orang tak tahu pun. Sometimes that person didn't even know that he is forgiven by us. But the correct thing to do for us is actually to forgive that person. Even though we felt that the other person didn't simply deserve that forgiveness. We forgive not because of that person, but we forgive because of ourselves. We want to release ourselves from that ill feeling, grudge, or resentment that will eventually destroy us from within. You know, the rotten tomatoes that we bring inside. Because even the like of Nelson Mandela was ever said that resentment or anger you kept inside is like you're drinking a poison and you expect the other person to die. If in the end you are just hurting yourself, what you need to do is to let it go, take some time, let it go, and carry on with your life. You forgive that person. So that is how forgiveness is budded. You are not announcing it, but it's like painfully you're gathering your things, slipping away unnoticed at night. No one knows about it, but you are just, yourself know about it. I mean, that's enough. And finally, Rahim Hassan said, there is a way to be good again. You know, we as humankind, we are not perfect. Kita pun banyak melakukan dosa besar, dosa kecil, whatsoever. But there is a way to be good again. I believe that, God is forgiving. Tuhan maha pengampun, maha pemaaf untuk kita. So segala kesilapan yang kita lakukan, kita bertaubat, minta ampun dan sebagainya, dan ada cara untuk kita melakukan kebaikan. Allah memberi kita peluang untuk kita melakukan kebaikan selagi mana kita masih hidup di muka bumi inilah. That's how the book resonates to me lah.
Okay, thank you so much Hairi. Aku rasa dah keluar aku dah sebab rapat sangat cerita dia. So I think I learned a lot from you tonight, and I never thought that this book somehow ada relation, meaning bagi some insight lah. Bukanlah insight, maksudnya macam bagi satu pengajaran lah dekat satu reflection dekat kau pasal pasal sebab macam I macam tak nampak macam benda tu akan datang in these presentations. So probably sebab I think you covered almost everything, and maybe you want to share some criticisms on the Kite Runner?
We did discuss about what is the so-called weakness of the book whatsoever. Because the thing is, when I got my hands onto the book, I couldn't really. Perhaps I didn't search for weaknesses. I just take it as it is. But what I can share with you some of the criticism that the book received. For example, the book was described as being selective and simplistic, simple-minded picture of Afghan conflict. Because the Kite Runner focuses more on interpersonal dramas than on the political ones. I mean, that's the criticism received by the book. But in my opinion, we need to set our expectation right in the sense that this is a fiction and it is written from the point of view of a kid, point of view of a child who's, the kids' imagination are not that far-fetching. What matters to them at that time, what should we, what I'm going to play, what I'm going to eat, or whatever, for example. So maybe this book, if you are searching to understand the deeper historical timeline or milestone of Afghanistan, perhaps this book is not really the one diving detail to it, but it does give the sense of feeling of how normal people would feel in the time of changes. So you need to get the expectation right, in my opinion. Secondly, they say it's too melodramatic, exaggeration of emotions, the sadness being described whatsoever. But in my opinion, that's how Khalid Husseini's style of writing. Because from my point of view, I see his sincerity in writing that, and it reaches me as an audience. But perhaps this depends on individuals' interpretation. The third criticism that the book received in inappropriateness of content, because the Kite Runner has been banned in some countries, in some schools, for including sexual content, sensitive themes, homosexuality, harsh language, and racism. I to some extent, I do agree in the sense that maybe this book is more suitable for elementary level school kids, because some of the school in the United States took this as some of the compulsory literature review syllabus, I guess. And another thing is that Khalid Husseini personally received criticism from the people in the countries, like the Pashtun people. Why are you embarrassing us, the Pashtun people? instead of saying that why this is not true, they are saying that why are you embarrassing us? So Hairi Husseini was saying that I'm just merely telling the truth. This is how we have been viewing the Hajara people, not as our equal, for example, right? So these are some of the criticism received by the book. But if I can share the comment by Khaled Husseini, that it is my hope that of every Afghan eventually, and of course the hope of every Afghan, eventually the war will end and a peace process will come about. And we believe that even though there are still, conflicts inside the country, let's pray that Afghan, like many other countries, can progress ahead positively. The people will recover from the past and, became productive for the greater good of the country. Yeah, I mean, that's my humble interpretation of the book.
Thank you so much, Hairi, for your time and sharing with us with the book. We now dah 55 minutes and I agree with Akmal's jackhammer. He said that aku suka, let me just read his comment. Aku suka perspektif pasal forgiveness. So yeah, I agree with that because dalam banyak-banyak tema ni, I rasa yang bila dengar tadi your reflection, nak memaafkan orang ni benda yang bukan mudah kan, benda yang paling susah. So yeah, thank you so much Hairi. I think banyak benda lah malam ni yang macam mungkin before sleep I need to reflect also. And insyaAllah kita jumpa lagi di office juga dan juga di lain masa dalam sesi membaca ini. Terima kasih semua viewers. InsyaAllah kita berjumpa lagi pada masa akan datang. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.